Yo, what is up everybody, it's the Great here and welcome back to another Naruto reaction video here today. And today we got an old but classic video by the great Swagkage. And as you can tell by the title, this is the worst fight in Naruto. So clearly folks, this is an opinion based kind of video. However, there are some pretty bad fights in Naruto. Ino versus Sakura will always come to mind. Any fight with Tenten. And a few others. There are various others that are quite bad, right? So I'm very interested to see what Swag picks as his personal own worst fight in Naruto. I am very intrigued. But before I begin, I know it's really appreciate, hit that like button, turn on bell notifications, stay up there with yours truly. And if you're new and you enjoy and you mess with the kid, man, make sure to hit that sub button, because once you do, become part of the family forever. But let's not waste any more time, screen. Let's see what Swag says today.
So I think it goes without saying that I really like Naruto, and one of my favorite arcs in the series is the Chunin exams. Now this isn't like unique or anything, this seems to be fairly common, and even people who don't really care for Naruto that much seem to agree that the Chunin exams at least is pretty entertaining.
Definitely.
That said, there's a fight in this arc that I've always had some problems with, and while it may not actually be the worst fight in the whole series if we are comparing it to every other fight there is, like even including the minor stuff, I do think that there's a fair case to be made for this fight being the worst when we're considering how important it's supposed to be. The fight I'm talking about is Naruto versus Neji. Probably the most important moment in Neji's character arc, and one of the most important moments in Naruto's character arc.
Right.
One of the many themes juggled by the Chunin exam portion of the story is individual growth. And this fight is supposed to serve as an opportunity for Naruto to show off how much he's improved since he graduated from the academy. It acts as an extension of this theme in more ways than one. It isn't just focused on how much stronger Naruto's gotten, but also on how much Naruto has grown as a person. There's a bit of irony at the core of all this, because even though Neji is supposed to be really strong, like the strongest genin there is, we've seen Naruto go through a bunch of personal growth over the course of the Land of Waves arc and the first chunk of the Chunin exams. But based on the way Neji speaks here, we're given the impression that as a person he's remained stagnant. He hasn't gone through any kind of character growth of his own because his worldview has prevented him from doing so.
Right.
So it's not just up to Naruto to prove that he's the better fighter here. He's also got to prove that he has the superior ideology.
Good point, I agree.
And the topic that Naruto and Neji are debating about is destiny and one's place in the world. Neji firmly believes that people can't change and that they are destined from birth to do something. They don't get to pick what that something is. It's preordained at the time of, or maybe a little bit before their birth. The main point is he believes in destiny and doesn't really agree with the idea that people have the ability to change their role in the universe or what it was that they were meant to do or meant to be. Naruto was born a failure, and that's just his destiny. He can't do anything to change that, and obviously this ideology can't coexist with Naruto's goal of becoming Hokage. If Neji's right about this, and Naruto's just destined to suck forever, then he can't do the thing that he's wanted to be able to for his entire life. And so, not just for Neji's sake, but for his own sake as well, he has to dismantle this. He has to figure out a way to argue against it and prove that somebody like him, who was once a failure, can, against all odds, become just as powerful as, if not even stronger than, a natural genius like Neji. Of course, the most effective way for Naruto to do this would just be to win the fight. So this is a fight where the ideological battle taking place is actually the same as the physical one taking place.
I agree.
Dismantling Neji's supposedly incorrect beliefs is just a natural part of the process of exhibiting the themes that have already been established in this arc. Now this is all pretty good stuff. The foundation for the fight has been laid magnificently. It naturally juggles a whole lot of stuff at once, but in execution, it's not so great. It doesn't handle much of this very well, and even if we strip the fight of all this secondary stuff and just look at it on the very surface level, it's not very entertaining either. Like, even if we critique it just for the quality of the spectacle and ignore all the thematic stuff, it still sucks. The main thing that irks me about this fight, and this has always bothered me, even when I first watched this fight as a dumb little kid, I didn't like this at all, is that the whole time Naruto's just getting thrashed. He's getting the shit knocked out of him. And then all of a sudden, he asks Kurama for some chakra. He gets it. And all it takes for him to beat Neji is one well-timed punch. Like, Neji does great. He performs perfectly throughout the whole fight. Doesn't really make any mistakes. And then because he's caught off guard one time and gets hit one time, he loses the whole fight. Like, Naruto's punch hurts him so much that he can't even stand up. Naruto had his whole chakra network turned off, and he got back up before even asking Kurama for chakra.
Right. I see where you're coming from.
Tell me that because Neji made the mistake of getting punched once by the main character, he's not allowed to get up after that, but Naruto can pull this little stunt. He was supposed to be paralyzed after the 64 palms, but he stood up after that. Like surely Neji should at least be able to move after this. Like, I don't even like Neji that much, and I think he absolutely deserved to win this fight. He was stronger than Naruto, faster than Naruto, and most importantly, smarter than Naruto. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of My Hero Academia, and don't particularly like its tournament arc. I think the Chunin exams is much better. But that series handled this exact scenario a lot better by actually having the main character lose the fight. I get that it was important to establish that Naruto had gotten stronger, but the thing is, this fight doesn't really give you that impression. It gives you the impression that Naruto is more willing to ask Kurama for help and is able to control the Nine-Tails chakra a little bit better than he used to be. But, like, at this point, that's not really his power. He and Kurama aren't friends. And every other time that Naruto has used Kurama's power to help him out in the fight, one of two things has happened. It's carried some pretty serious consequences. Like, for example, Naruto will slightly or even sometimes completely lose any semblance of who he is. Or in the case of the Kyuubi Chakra mode, he's only able to attain this power as a result of intense training and eventually as a result of befriending Kurama. This isn't the case when he fights Gaara, to be fair. In that fight, he also gets his little poopy orange Cheeto puff dust Kyuubi Chakra cloak. But in that fight, he at least wins thanks to learning how to use a new jutsu. Whereas here, he just wins for free. He doesn't change his approach to combat. He just gets a sudden, kind of arbitrary power boost. And he doesn't adapt to Neji's fighting style. He doesn't try to cover any of the weaknesses that Neji has been exploiting the entire fight. He just tries to hit him so hard that all of Neji's defensive options won't work anymore. That's so stupid. Like, let's look at Gaara versus Lee, for example. A much better fight. Everybody likes this fight. Of
course,
right?
much better.
And there's a pretty similar dynamic going on here, the underdog versus the overpowered god. Towards the end of the fight, Lee does something very similar. He taps into a dangerous inner power in order to try and close the gap present between he and Gaara. And Lee hits Gaara a couple more times than just once. Kind of knocks Gaara around for a really long time. Like, it looks like he's hitting Gaara way harder than Naruto hit Neji here, but he still loses. Lee takes a much bigger risk, gains what at least should have been a much more substantial power-up, and not only loses the fight, but is almost crippled for life because of it. So, like, purely from an author's perspective, if this is what happened to Lee in a very similar situation, why does Naruto deserve to beat Neji here? He performed a lot worse in the fight. He doesn't put nearly as much on the line. Like, he's not willing to give himself up to Kurama like he has many times before this and like he later would many times after this. He just gets a sudden power boost and wins for free. And this also kind of flies in the face of all of the thematic stuff that I was talking about earlier. The fact that Naruto is just able to call on the power of the Nine-Tails, like that he has been carrying this enormous power inside of him from birth. Doesn't it kind of prove what Neji was saying about, you know, people being preordained for their role in life and destiny and all that? I mean, this would later become even more relevant with the whole Indra and Ashura reincarnation stuff, but it's not really fair to retroactively hold that stuff against this fight because of how much further down the line it would happen. But, you know, I mean, it is there. You could point to it and be like, yeah, Neji kind of had a point, dude. And so not only does all this kind of reinforce Neji's ideology, like the fact that Naruto is just able to tap into this power source that nobody else has access to. He's the only one with this power, that he's had since he was born, that he doesn't improve throughout the fight. He doesn't change his approach to combat. All he does is ask for his own super special, exclusive cheater juice, and then he's just able to win for free. Like, this doesn't exhibit.
Yeah, I get it. How it'll leave a distasteful taste in your mouth. I get it.
Premise. The underdog overcomes the natural genius through tenacity and hard work. Naruto doesn't do that. Even if he had fucking summoned Gamabunta and crushed the whole stadium, as ridiculous as that would have been better than just tapping into Ninetales juices and punching Neji so hard that he wins. Yes, I know. He uses a shadow clone in a pretty clever way to catch Neji off guard. Like, I get that, but that's something that he's been able to do since the beginning of the series. It's not a sign of personal growth. Like every other major time Naruto overcame an obstacle, it was thanks to something new he learned, or some discovery he'd made. Like, beating Kabuto was thanks to his mastery of the Rasengan. Beating Kakazu, thanks to his mastery of the Rasen Shuriken, Pain, Sage Mode, Obito, Madara, Ninetales Chakra Mode, Six Paths Sage Mode, so on and so forth. But here, it's just so weird. This fight's an anomaly. It doesn't fall in line with any of the other stuff. But,
Right.
Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. As always,
This is a good video.
Watching.
Interesting.
Talk to you later.
Peace. All right, I definitely want to get my take on that. I see where he's coming from, right? It is kind of a one-way ticket, free way to a victory over Neji. I understand that, right? And the Ninetales does serve as a Deus Ex Machina on more than one occasion, right? When Naruto was about to be defeated by Pain, we all know what happened there. The Ninetales emerged, right? There was no growth there. Similar to this event, this particular event, Naruto was getting his ass handed to him, but then he got a sudden power boost to the point where he's able to one-shot Neji, who was flawless in his performance previously. So I understand where the distaste comes from, right? Is it the worst fight in my opinion? No. Probably Ino versus Sakura, which was such a joke, right? There's no way to take that serious. It's probably the worst fight I've ever seen in Naruto. It was boring, and it was actually painful to watch. It was quite painful. But this fight could have been better, I do agree. The writers maybe should have went a different approach. Maybe they were short on time or whatever the case may be, but they could have made this a lot more meaningful, possibly by having Naruto have a long, stretched out kind of fight against Neji. Maybe he does get a power boost by the Ninetales or something of that nature, and they go to battle. They have a good battle. He barely beats Neji instead of one-shotting him and it ending there, right? I think this very event also limited the potential of Neji as a character. Who knows, right? Maybe this just limited his potential as a character because previously Neji was one of the coolest characters in Naruto. He was the #1 recruit at the Chunin exams. He had the ability to shut down your chakra network. He had the personality. He had the confidence. He had the look. He had it all. But it all got shut down by an arbitrary power boost from Kurama to Naruto. And he gets one shot, and that's it. That's all she wrote for him. Right? He never really bounces back from that, in my opinion. He's just kind of there. Shippuden is kind of there. Same thing with Rock Lee, honestly. But then again, I can't really connect that to just this one fight. But the point is, this fight could have been better. I do agree with Swag on that. It does seem kind of forced by the writers. They're like, all right, we got to make Naruto win somehow. Let's just give him a boost by Kurama. Let's send it there. One shot Neji. Like, come on. Make it more meaningful and impactful to the viewer. And Swag's dead right about that. He's dead right about it. What I did like about the fight, to give its credit, is the thematic aspects, which Swag did point out, right? The battle of ideologies, which is a very common thing in Naruto, all the way up until its conclusion in Shippuden. Even now in Boruto, there is a battle of ideologies, a battle of philosophies constantly. All right, so that's an interesting thing to think about. However, Swag got a good point in this video. He's not wrong. The fight could have been much better. It definitely isn't my favorite fight. I do like the ideological battle, clash, whatever you want to call it. I did like that. Besides that, the fight wasn't very good. It was very quick, and it seemed kind of forced the way it concluded. Right? It really did seem kind of forced. And yeah, guys, that's an interesting video by Swag. I definitely wanted to check it out. I'm surprised I haven't, but I did it today, and it was a good one. Let me know your thoughts on what you think is the worst fight in Naruto. I'm sure you guys have many opinions on that. And if you have any recommendations, also let me know in the comments. But that's going to wrap it up. I'll catch you in the next video. This is Jay the Great signing out. Peace.